thank you for joining us. Make sure that when you're watching us through TV3 Ghana across all social media platforms, you are also tweeting, sending those posts through Facebook, Instagram, with the hashtag TV3NewDay, and then Johnny's by it as well. But as we do that, let's just introduce our guest for the morning. I have Paragraph Wachidankwa. He's a government spokesperson on governance and security. Good morning to you, Paragraph.
Good morning, Ron.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Been a while.
Good to be here.
Yeah,
thank you.
Great. And then also in front of me is the Member of Parliament for Tamale North and Alhassi Sohoyeni. Thank you. How are you?
I'm terrific. Thank you, Roland.
Yeah. And the former chair for the PNC is Bernard Muna. He's also here. How are you?
As always, I could have been better.
Well, we'll put all those matters into perspective as we do a recall, as the president had an interaction with a station on a store of the Ashanti region and making a number of responses, if not commentary, on all the public uproar about whether, well, his government has done enough roads in the stronghold of the MPP, the Ashanti region, or whether the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, who currently is leading Ghana's team as they interact and negotiate on the last bit of us having an agreement with the International Monetary Fund up in Washington, D.C. Now the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Somebody supports you, it's because they want you to do things for them. I understand that. There's no need for people to go to Manya, say. I don't want to answer. Of course, I may. About to decide to my NDC. I want to answer. I don't know myself. Will be a song and in Teams, baby. And they are the important thing is that we have a responsibility. I understand the responsibility, and we will deal with it.
Fantastic.
Right.
Now, the last time I was Bahano, now you're candidate. And
as president.
As president.
That's right.
Now, maybe Opewasempa, no send a question way. Was so Baha as candidate. What can I say? They will take a year. Sir, obey president, will ring feeder.
The first 4 years of my first term, we were one of the fastest growing economies in the world, an average growth rate of 7% a year from the beginnings of an IMF program, an economy that allowed us to initiate the program Planting for Food and Jobs.
Good.
A program which was happened in April of 2017. I believe so. I think it's April of 2017. Agriculture Minister, no, baby. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I believe it was April that we went to Boston.
April.
Yes.
April. 2017. April.
There's an April Boston, no.
3 months after I came to office.
2017.
Good. In August 2017, we launched the free SHS program. Oh, then there's also the
1D1F.
1D1F program. These key flagship programs of our manifesto, of our policy, all of them launched in the first year of our program. We were under an IMF program right until 2019. But this man was able to organize the management of our economy in such a way that not only were we able to roll out all these programs in that first year and subsequent years, but our economy's growth was spectacular. And then they be for convenience sake. One in Kai. Says, I can't say Ghana for any Kai. So, somebody who has been able to do that, why would I say that? How do I do that? How do I do that? What would be the basis? What is the rationale? So I can say first time no crown no so any that's the matter now and so any can say can be repeating for my second term. I repeated him for my second term. Like some of the senior ministers of my government, the agriculture minister is behind me, the roads minister is here, the trade minister is there. These are some of the major pillars of my government. For me, their performance in my first term was excellent. Let me use that word.
And that's the president there. Now, Mr. Boachedankwa, you take a look at the response of the president to that question. It's as if he's calling the bluff of everybody within the public space. Roland, he's trying to go against the grain of public opinion.
Good morning to you, Roland, and to my colleagues on the panel and to your viewers this morning. I think that we need to be able to situate the conversations very well. Now, the Ghanaian people, which you are aware, always have an opportunity to decide who becomes president of the Republic of Ghana. And you are aware how our political regimes have been. We have close to about maybe 12 registered political parties in this country. And so in every electioneering year, everyone makes up their mind which political party they would vote for. I definitely would never make up my mind to vote for an NDC political party. Neither would I vote for PNC or CPP. I mean, I'm blue and forever blue, so I would vote for MPP. So I think that the conversation that the president really held was that, yes, I mean, in terms of development, it's on the heart and the mind of the Ghanaian people and even our government to ensure that we bring upward development to every nook and cranny of the country. Howbeit, if those developments to an extent does not impact you, if it is road, because maybe you're in a particular community and your road has not been done yet, and so as a result of that you are making a decision not to vote for the MPP government in the 2024 general election, the president is saying that he cannot force you to vote for the MPP government because you have made up your mind that you will not vote for the MPP government. Let's situate that and let's not take it in isolation, but also to realize that the president is in Ashanti region to continue supervision and also to commission and launch other projects that are ongoing. I was in Kumasi, just flew back last night to continue the conversation here this morning. President arrived on Sunday, went to church at St. Cyprian's, and then afterwards went to meet the Otumfo to basically pay homage and let him know that he's going to be working within the Asante man for about 4 days. In the midst of that as well, afterwards the president also stated very categorically in terms of a number of high-level developments that we have brought within the Asante region. Then he came to the Buankra inland port where I was, and the president came to supervise the ongoing work that is there. Close to about 800 meters of the Buankra inland port has already begun work by the Asante Port Services. Mr. Isaac Efum, who is the CEO, together with the financial consultants, Sir Harris Intimabuaji and Chairman Bujay, all of them were there in addition to Shippers Council, the board chair, Stella Wilson. So high-level works that has been done and ongoing. I mean, Buankra is continually ongoing. Development is at a very high rate. In terms of unemployment, has raised close to about 300 to 400 laborers that are working continually day and night as we speak. The project is estimated to cost close to about $330 million US, and the private investor APSL is raising that money. The president is very convinced that in the first quarter of 2024 we'll be able to at least commission phase 1 and even a sizable part of phase 2. And Buankra is particularly very important for us as a country because of the landlocked countries in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger that we desire to serve, and the economic benefits of that to our economy is something that we cannot rule out. Thereafter, the president went to Konongo to commission some hospitals, inspected some one district, one factories, some Agenda 111, and I've seen considerably the Agenda 111 sites. I've seen the works. I've traveled to a number of the sites. I've seen the progress of work, and I'm very convinced that yes, when the president does state categorically that by the time he hands over power on the 7th of January 2025, we would have completed all 111 district hospitals and commissioned them as well. So the president is ongoing, visiting a number of the hospitals and seeing the progress of development and construction that is ongoing. Yesterday, the president opened the appeal court judges, their accommodation, which is
very beautiful.
very, very beautiful, very, very beautiful. And it's important that we focus a lot more on the positives of what government is doing. Today, President is going to go to Swami, going to commission the interchange, do a short cutting for the interchange, and a number of ways that the President is doing there. So let's not situate the conversation of the President out of context. I mean, the President is not saying that if you do not want to vote for him, you have your right not to vote for him. But you are aware that in this country, we have persons that would always vote for MPP, persons that would always vote for NDC. So what the President was speaking to the Ghanaian people, and in addition to that also, I mean, appealing to the Ghanaian people to understand that development is a holistic one. Okay. And so the fact that a road infrastructure has not particularly reached your community, you should also look at the 16 flagship programs of government and even look at free SHS, because free SHS has impacted you.
Okay. So the President decides to travel to the heart of the stronghold of his party, the Ashanti region, Kumasi. And this is within a period where not too long ago, main importers, traders along the value chain closed their shops in furtherance to their disdain over a policy introduction, the slum of the city, alongside their negative public opinion in the heart of Ashanti at one side of the public regarding the President and his government's response towards Ashanti, because there are videos circulating in which farmers have had their farms inundated with flood waters, or maybe waters from streams or tributaries of rivers that have been polluted, and saying in those videos that they are even MPP. And you're saying the President was responding to the generality of Ghanaians?
Absolutely. I mean, if the President was not responding to the generality of the Ghanaian people, we in Greater Accra will not be having this conversation. I mean, you are aware how powerful the media is. And so the media goes across the length and breadth of this world. And so the President speaks, and wherever the President speaks, it becomes news, and which is why we are here discussing that. So not just particularly to the people of Ashanti region, because, I mean, you find the conversations online, you can play it over and over again, people in Australia, people in Middle East, people in America, the US, and people in Europe and the likes can always just play it back. So the President was speaking to the entirety of the Ghanaian people. Now, you mentioned the streams of water and all of that. Our government is very strong on Galamsey.
You are?
Absolutely. I mean,
and,
I do not think that I do not think that there's been any government in this Fourth Republic, or even from 1957, that has been so strong in the fight against Galamsey. You name the presidents that have been in this country and tell me which of them have been so forefront. And the President has held conversations with the National House of Chiefs. In this month alone, the President has been to Kumasi. This is the second time that the President is going to Kumasi. On the 6th of October, the President was in Kumasi to have a meeting with the National House of Chiefs. I mean, clearly tells you that Galamsey is a fight that our government is very strong about to ensure that we bring it to an end.
Is it not because the President is incessantly or consistently going back to the issue of Galamsey because the institutions and the policies and the strategy he's put in place have failed so far?
Not at all. You cannot say that. I think that is an error. If you look at the policies that we have put in place, and especially as our fight against Galamsey, we launched this Operation Halt initiative, and we've relaunched it again a second time.
Is that not a mark of failure?
Not at all. You see, the fight against Galamsey...
You launched a policy.
The fight
to combat an activity.
No, the fight
to consistently deteriorates.
The fight against
you
Galamsey.
Relaunch it.
The fight against Galamsey.
It's not admission of failure.
No, the fight against Galamsey cannot be completed in a day. Now, the deterioration within which we have come over
the
years.
Governing party involved, well-fingered.
No, you see, the conversation around Galamsey must be very holistic, and I don't think that is an MPP problem that has caused where we are today. Is the indiscipline of the Ghanaian people that have been involved in illegal mining,
and then you can call the
NDC. You can call the NDC persons that have been involved in Galamsey. You can call CPP persons that have been involved in Galamsey. You can call PNC. No, it's regardless who is in power. You see, it's not. It's the people. You understand? It's the people that have been involved in it. And so let's not make the Galamsey issue an issue of the MPP government.
Okay.
The MPP government is very forthright to ensure that we fight against Galamsey and bring Galamsey to an end as much as possible.
Last question before I go on to Sohini. What you did by explaining what the president said, is it not an indictment on what the president said? That after the president has eloquently spoken on a frequency modulation station in Kumasi, which is supposed to be broadcasting within the perimeter, you are now coming in furtherance to that to explain what the president said, as if we never heard what he said or understood what he said.
No, but basically, I mean, it's a frequency that is being played in Kumasi,
I
but
understand.
it's online. But it is online and it goes.
You are even trying
it's
to
online and it goes
explain
around the world.
to us.
It's
what he
online.
said.
It's online and it goes around the world. And I need to be able to situate it so people do
Because
not
he clearly
jump.
was not speaking to the masses of the generality of
If
the
the
Ghanaians.
president was not speaking to the masses of the
He was
generality,
speaking to the people
if
of
the
Ashanti or
president was,
Kumasi.
if the president was not speaking to the generality of the people, we will not be here
Is it
discussing
not that
it.
the president told the people that if you like vote for me, I can hold the hand of people? He said that in Tree, right?
No, but
I
then
can hold the hand of people to go and vote for MPP or NDC. If they like, they can vote for NDC. That's what the president said.
No, Roland, on the 7th of December every electionary year, have you ever been forced to vote for a particular political party? Answer the question. Have you ever been forced? I have never been forced. For the very first time I started voting when I was 18 years old, I was never forced to vote in the manner in which I was voting for. And that's what the president stated. You have not been forced ever to either vote for the NPP or to vote for the NDC.
Why is that the president didn't say that prior to
voted.
2016, prior to 2020?
No, but then the president has always campaigned on the front of the fact that vote for an effective leadership and an effective government, which is the NPP government. And then we believe very well that we don't need to isolate the conversations and just oppose it to say that the president is saying that do not vote for the NPP government. That is not what the president said.
Mr. Soyini, Mr. Wachidankwa says we're taking the president out of context. We're being unfair to the president.
Well, thank you, Roland. That's quite an interesting position to assume. I mean, the president was in the Ashanti region, or still is in the Ashanti region, was speaking in the most popular dialect in that region, which is Tree, and was speaking on a station that I'm sure he considers appropriate for the people of the Ashanti region. And the question was about threats of people in the Ashanti region, not to vote for the NPP in the coming elections. And the response was direct and apt to say he doesn't care. I mean, to explain it, he just doesn't care. And why should he care? I mean, the true nature and character of the president has been evident for anybody who cares to see, especially...
The government position is that he was speaking to the generality of the masses, the Ghanaian, and that it's a station, these days, everything goes viral.
I understand that, but he didn't conduct that interview in Accra. There was a reason why he went all the way to the Ashanti region and chose a station in the Ashanti region to do that. I mean, so they can, dice it and slice it however they wish to. But the point has to be made that the president's true character, the character that we in opposition at the time in government spoke about, which he denied severally, got, PR specialists.
Now, which character is that?
To work around is clearly evident for anybody who cares to observe him lately. He just doesn't give a toss. The arrogance. I mean, I have repeatedly said it, that it is not even the failure of this administration that hurts the most, or that is disappointing the most, but it is the arrogance, the cluelessness, the dishonesty, the disrespect with which they go about their governance. It's just nauseating.
No, Mr. Wachidankwa is very calm.
Well, you can consider it so, but I'm talking about the president here. And I'm talking about the people who have responsibilities in this government. So Wachidankwa's responsibility is only to speak for the government. And that is what he does. But I'm talking about those who put pen to paper and make things happen. The president included. the arrogance, the cluelessness, the dishonesty. It's just mind-boggling. It's as if they got to the presidency with a gun to our heads. And like the president says, he has a second term. You can decide not to vote for the MPP. He just doesn't care.
He didn't mention.
And this is not, well, you can, but that's the people were saying, he says the threats of not voting for the MPP, it doesn't concern him. That's what he's saying. So I am saying that it is in sync with his character. I mean, for some of us, we are not surprised, even though we are disappointed that, you know, he deceived so many unsuspecting Ghanaians about his humility. You know, you remember the trotros and the pure water, and then the what do you call it, ampesie eating and all those things, just to show how humble he was. Ever since he became president, in fact, he no longer goes to sit with the youth in Teshi to play the cards that he was playing.
Well, normal president does it.
Now he travels even with a chair. In fact, the chair has its own Land Cruiser. Those benches he sat on to eat the ampesie no longer can support his buttocks. I mean, he now needs a special chair carried by a Land Cruiser, and he takes it to the studios to spew out, you know, what he has been spewing out. I mean, so I'm saying that you may be surprised, I'm not. That is the character of the president that we spoke of, which he tried to conceal, to deceive the people of Ghana, and got to the presidency, and is now showing. But that's not the subject. You see, I think that we need to understand the mindset with which this government is ruling.
No, which mindset is that?
It's like the president believes that some people made him president. They worked for him to be president, and so he owes them a favor back. And whether they are delivering to meet our expectations or our needs, he doesn't give a toss. For him, it's about loyalty and nothing else. It's not about merit. It's about people who stood with him when he, you know, did all the tricks that he engaged in to become president. And so that is why he will tell you that the finance minister, you know, doesn't deserve the criticisms that he's
well, the president was
getting.
Until COVID came, everything was fine, and the numbers speak for themselves.
Do they?
Oh, until 2019.
You see, in this conversation, let us first of all understand that a lot of people are having sleepless nights because of this economy. In fact, people have started losing their lives.
So we should be empathetic and not just speak anyhow.
People have started losing their lives as a result of this, you know, the economy, the decisions that they have taken. As we speak this morning, somebody may just be with a calculator trying to balance the numbers of his mortgage. I'm very sure of that. Somebody who had, for example, Roland, who traded with 100,000 Ghana cedis, what we call in the markets 1 billion Ghana cedis. And I'm using the local dollar, 1 billion. Someone who traded with 1 billion early this year required $13,000. I mean, that was the value of his money. 100,000 was about $13,000. And so if he was going to import things, he would have imported things worth $13,000. With that same 1 billion today, he can only get about $8,300. It's no longer even up to 3,000. I mean 10,000. He now has just 8,000, something that was worth $13,000 in the beginning of this year. That trader with a capital of 1 billion, the value of 13,000 then is now about $8,300. So what does it tell you? If you traded with 100,000 Ghana cedis then, the value of goods you were getting in the beginning of the year with 100,000, you now need 160,000 to get the same value of goods.
So your point is?
Let's empathize with people in such businesses, in such state, and not disregard the suffering that we have put them into. Such a person who now requires 60,000 more to add to his 100,000 to still get the same goods for his shop may have to close the shop down. And if people were working there, may have to lay them off. They are the people the president is saying he doesn't care whether they vote for the MPP or not, because for him or to him, Ken Ofori-Atta is angel. And it's a savior to this country. He doesn't care. When he talks about the first term, we said it. But again, it was considered political rhetoric. But every economist knows that when you implement a policy, it has a gestation period. Every economist who wants to be honest will tell you that you don't just implement a policy this year and begin to get its fruits. In fact, because they know it is true, when you speak of e-levy these days, they tell you it will take time for us to see the benefits. Yeah, because they know that when you implement a policy, the results of it is not shown. Roland, by 2016, November 2016, go read all the rating agencies' reports on Ghana. EIU, you name them. Go read. November 2016, they had predicted that Ghana's economy was going to grow in leaps and bounds. In fact, they had predicted that the next year, 2017, the GDP was going to be as high as 9%.
Yeah, that doesn't take away from the fact that all those figures were recorded in 2017, 2018, 2019, and all of them under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president.
Predicted under President Mahama. Predicted based on work that was done. Predicted based on work that was done in the energy sector, for example, the ENI deals, the Sankofa deals. Those were the basis upon which those predictions were made. And tell me if that growth that they reported in 2017 and 2018 had nothing to do with those investments. The records show that it had everything to do with those investments in 2016. But you know what? They did. And yes, there was an IMF program, and you know what led us to, going to the IMF around that time. The Dumsor, which President Mahama, by the way, didn't bring from Bali, which was inherited from successive governments who, according to data again, neglected investments in that sector. And so it came to the crunch under him, which he's fixed before he left office. You talk about the single spine salary structure, again, which was inherited from President Kufuor and President Mills, but which at the time that he became president had thrown the revenue stream vis-a-vis expenditure out of control. You recall the fact that oil prices and world commodity prices had slumped to its lowest around that time. So yes, the economy, when he inherited, was in trouble. But he steered the ship with humility and with respect to the people of Ghana. And by 2016, they were making these predictions about our economy, which they inherited. Instead of them to also continue on that tangent of humility, of investing in productive ventures, like Setekwe used to say, investing in programs, investing in programs that can pay for themselves, investing in projects such as the Ghana Gas, which today is not only saving us foreign currency, but also paying for itself.
Well, there's 1D1F.
Investing in the teaching hospital, which became a hotel for many of their big men when COVID hit.
What do you mean? Okay.
Investing in the Terminal 3, which is paying for itself and making Ghana aviation one of the best in the world, in Africa today. So that they pay for themselves. Yes, Ghana's, if you don't know, Kotoka has one of the best, airport in Africa. Go check.
It's not because of Terminal 3.
What else? What else could we have used to win such an award? What else? So I'm saying that when you invest like he did, if they had invested like they did, we wouldn't have been where we are today. But they came like a child. I have always said it. They came like the child who inherits so much from the parents without knowing the hard work that the parents put into raising those assets. Decided to go to town to throw parties, like the Kenke parties, to celebrate and to throw money at anything that was on site.
Which is what?
Without first considering the impact of the investments that they were making. So, I mean, the vice president could look at the coffers and decide that, oh, we have so much money, we have so much space, we can even borrow more. So guess what? Utility tariffs, against even the laws, we are cutting it down. So against PURC directive, the vice president, the president, they announced utility tariff cuts. On the altar of political expediency, because there was really no reason, no sense.
There was COVID.
No, that was even before COVID, when they did some of these reckless announcements, which we spoke against and cautioned. Again, you have benchmark values. Oh, we are slashing it down. Then, within a very short time, we are bringing it back, creating confusion even at the ports. And once that confusion is created, your revenue is going to be hit because you're going to have troubles. So the economy was put on a pedestal that if they had maintained, we would have been able to, absorb the shocks that COVID and Ukraine and others brought. Because other countries experience COVID.
So you don't agree with the president?
Other countries are experiencing Ukraine and Russia. But their currency is not the worst. Today, we are even worse than Sri Lanka's rupee.
Well, Bernard, we all do admit the difficulty within ourselves, but even there are references where we can copiously link to the IMF, indicating that the economy has had some shocks or been also impacted by COVID and certainly Ukraine as well. And so the president perhaps could be justified to be saying that I can still maintain my team because pre-COVID everything was fine.
Good morning to you, Palgrave and then Suhini. I am uncomfortable having to first respond to President Akufo-Addo, who appears to have once again been misled. Indeed, President Akufo-Addo is standardless. He has no standards whatsoever as to measure the kind of engagements that he wants us to engage. President Akufo-Addo...
What do you mean by standardless?
Somebody who doesn't have any standards or what do I call it, determining factors to guide him.
And why do you say that?
Because you see, I live in an economy, and I'm sure you live in the same economy, where this morning transport owners are telling us that they are going to increase their transport fares by about 40%. I live in an economy where food availability has become a problem.
Not true. Not true. There's a bumper harvest.
Would you mute
so
I talk? Because as you were talking...
okay, please go on. I think I will admit he said there's enough food. That's his response. We'll go ahead.
I am a farmer, and I know that there is no bumper harvest. In fact, harvest is about starting. It has not started.
Maybe
so
what
he
you
is
found.
speaking in...
He has data from Ministry of Agriculture. Please go ahead. You just go ahead.
I live in an economy where the Ghanaian's worker, what we call the minimum wage, if assembled, will not be able to buy minimum bread. Just bread. I'm not talking about the tea and its components for breakfast. I live in an economy where students are asked to go home because they cannot get the food ration that they've been getting to feed on. I live in an economy when electricity prices are in a different realm, where water prices, cannot be paid for. I live in an economy where traders in the market are finding it difficult to engage in any trade.
It's not because we have to pay utility companies, right tariffs, gauged by a regulator or determined by a regulator.
I live in an economy where everything is in shambles. I refuse to engage. And so when you live in that economy, it is right and decent for somebody who have standards, who have class, who have an understanding and appreciation of the turmoil in which we are, to sober in your pronouncement and not to be belligerent and arrogant. What President Akufo-Addo did. And I am saddened.
How can you describe the president as being arrogant?
I am saddened that it has to take Palgrave to come and now tell us that President Akufo-Addo doesn't speak good English.
That is not what I said.
What do you
Mr.
mean-
Mona.
what do you mean by that?
Palgrave is now trying to give us inferences to
I'm
tell us that
putting
that
the
is not what,
conversation in context.
Okay, he said he's putting it into perspective.
that President Akufo-Addo doesn't understand context. And he, Palgraves, understand English and understand the context in which President Akufo-Addo wanted to communicate to the people.
He also spoke in Twi as well, so it's both English and Twi.
President Akufo-Addo he's not an Akan.
Well, he is.
And so he doesn't understand what he wanted to communicate. It has to tell Palgrave to come and tell us that President didn't mean what he wanted to say. I mean, you know,
Take your time. You have 2 more minutes before I go for a break.
no, you know, seriously.
No, you have 2 more minutes before I go for a break.
Because
you are
if
becoming emotional.
Because
Just
if
cool
you
down.
want to take up this matter, you end up in a realm that people will think that, look, you have no regard for age. But we need to speak. That President, don't be misled by the things that have happened. Look, President Akufo-Addo is sitting down telling us that why. I say he doesn't have standards. He doesn't have what yardstick he wants. President Akufo-Addo told us that he's going to move this nation away from taxation to production. That is the standard.
You mean from Gajisbergian economy to?
Fantastic. He told us that we were not going to borrow because we have all that it takes, and confirmed by Dr. Alhaji Mahmudu Bawumia that he even worked at the Bank of Ghana, and that all the money we needed is in Ghana. Because he has no standard, he has no class, the man came and he has overborrowed. He has come and imposed taxes, including taking money from your wallet, from your phone. That is theft.
Oh.
That is stealing.
No. What do you mean by that? It's taxation.
There
are means
you
of
should
raising
know
the-
you should know what is taxation. You tax on investment. You tax on profit. You tax on capital
It was
gains.
passed by Parliament. We elected parliamentarians. Honorable Suhini is a parliamentarian. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
And so when a government is not even clothed with what the basic areas to tax, and that president is telling me that that minister who doesn't understand what taxation is about, taking money from my pocket, virtually becoming a pickpocket.
It's a law.
No, there was a law that colonized us. It was a bad law. So don't sit here and tell me that laws that are passed by parliament must necessarily be consumed by citizens. When you have bad laws, you must fight them with all the rigorosity at your command. And so when we sit down and laws are passed, and the kind of manner in which this electronic transfers levies was passed, should tell you that it is ab initio was a bad law. And indeed, there is even a court process, which I don't know when it's going to end. But obviously, you have migrated from the very principles and standards, over-borrowed, overtaxed, run down the economy in a shameless manner.
What do you mean by run down the economy? Or you mean the numbers are not right?
President Akufo-Addo told us that he knows how to bring about the economy, but he doesn't know how to bring about lives.
It was a period of force majeure.
The the escalation, the supersonic speed at which the Cedi is galloping. Is that how to manage an economy? The roughness with which they are speaking, which is actually exacerbating the Ghanaian situation. You know, it is such rough talk. Because if you have President Akufo-Addo going to stand at the African Union, going to stand at the UN, and opening his mouth at any angle and telling the rating agencies that, look, you are doing this. These are the same rating agencies that you applauded when you were in opposition for rating our country unfavorably. Today, you know that they are not of African origin. And that is why they are doing what they are doing. If they are not of African origin, what is the alternative you are putting in place? You want to run down those rating agencies, and you think that your economy will survive?
Yet you pay subscription fees to them.
I mean, it doesn't gel. You have gone to stand at a podium trying to berate and run down somebody.
You have a minute
and you think that rating agency will even credit you favorably. We sit down, and our president looks at in the face and says, why? I cannot come and force your thumb to go and vote.
Now you're speaking to Ghanaians, and Ghanaian voters.
I am an Ivorian.
I made up of
by your submission.
PNC,
I'm an
NDC,
Ivorian.
MPP, and the rest of the political parties.
So you cannot force people to come and
I'm
vote.
making inferences from government's position. Please.
Obviously, President was speaking to Ghanaian and probably to the investor community that I cared less whether. Because I cannot come and take your hand and go and vote because I made a promise to you that when I come, I'll come and fix this and this and this, and have come and have not fixed it. So you're requesting of me.
Oh, Mr. Boachi Dankwah said that's not what the president said.
He understands more English and more Twi than the president, and probably than you, but not me. Because I can make direct inferences from what the president has said.
How am I supposed to respond to what you're asking?
No, you are not required to.
Okay, please.
So obviously, I just see a president who tells us that we can go to hell. He is in charge.
That's not what he said.
Can I not make inferences?
You are allowed, sir.
So he says that we can go to hell. He is in charge. He has assembled the worst class of people to manage the affairs of this country. They have led us into this ditch. And because they are of his family, he is incapable of removing them. In fact, he has refused to remove them, knowing very well that the economy is not doing well. When president comes to say,
your time is up, sir.
When president comes to say,
you have 60 seconds, sir.
When president comes to say that the economy was managed well in 2017, when he was assembling his team, what did they do to bring about the positive growth that we enjoyed? In any case, he blames the NDC for the woes that we are facing today. But he doesn't praise the NDC for the enjoyment that we had in 2017.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Didn't President Akufo-Addo and his ministers come to say that why? The challenges we are facing today is as a result of the kind of investment that John Mahama and the NDC made in the energy sector.
I get your point.
So today, you can blame the NDC 6 years down the line, but 1 year down the line when you were reaping some growth, you could not credit it to the government that you just took over.
Your time is up, sir. We have to go for a break, but let me just give you this 4 minutes before we hit 8.
All four for him alone.
4 minutes, yes.
For him alone.
Yes.
After break, I will have my 4 minutes.
Okay, then one. Okay, then let me
after
go for
the
the
4
break.
minutes,
I'll go for the break and come back because today the restless. It looks like I'm not in a good position to fight them. Al-Hassan Suhiyini, member of Parliament for Tamale North, is here. Bernard Mona, former chair for the PNC, and Palgraves Boachi Dankwah is government spokesperson on governance and security, and it's all in response to what the president said on the story of the Ashanti region, which apparently Palgraves is telling us has been misconstrued. Because the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, was speaking to the generality of Ghanaians. It's still New Day right here on TV3. Go with that same hashtag, Johnny's Bite and TV3NewDay. We'll be right back. Make sure that you go with the hashtag TV3NewDay and go look us up. We're talking about TV3 Ghana across all social media platforms. But Ghana Cedi slammed on Monday to become the world's worst performing currency this year, as investors continue to squeeze foreign capital to the West African country before a deal with the International Monetary Fund. This is how international news wires tend to write their stories. Now, they continue, and this is from Bloomberg. They continue, the currency of the world's second biggest cocoa producer depreciated as much as 3.3% before paring the loss to 11.2750 in the capital, Accra. So they've dissociated themselves from our conditions. Mr. Boachi Dankwa, this is not good.
Roland, you know, a number of the conversations we have really dovetails into perceptions. You are aware, you are aware of the global issues, and there is no country that has been isolated. There are close to about 190 plus countries in this world. I've studied their GDP. Ghana clearly is not a unique case out of other countries and the challenges that other countries are going through. So it's important that as we hold the conversations around the depreciation of the cedi to the dollar, it's come a long way, and it's not through any fault of anyone. It's clearly as a result of all the global challenges that has berated us as a country. But you are aware that our government is working on ensuring that we alleviate the plight and the impact on the economy, on the Ghanaian people, which is why government put together all of these interventions, which is why government has already started conversations with the IMF. A number of these interventions, we believe very certainly that by the time we enter into first quarter of 2023, I mean, these things would be a thing of the past. But holistically, it's important that we look at how we want to be able to develop our country and the forex and the level of investment that foreign people have, and how they are always repatriating a lot of their funds out of this country into their own economies to be able to build it up. And so let's situate it very well. I've followed the conversation around it, but I think that the more we speak about it, the more it goes into the pundit of the perceptions.
Bloomberg is being perceptive. That's not a fair comment to make.
No,
because everybody knows that the currency has performed poorly. We had been given the indications way from January, and even for local economists or even academics, there's been this acknowledgement that we just haven't done right by way of policy implementation over the last couple of years, and that is why our currency has found itself in the current difficulties. Indeed, if you take a read of the Bloomberg story, so investors were expecting to hear something in Washington last week, but unfortunately nothing has emerged. And it's the reason why the finance minister is still in Washington, D.C. Is that not it?
So, do you see, the finance minister together with the team are in Washington based on the IMF negotiations that are ongoing. I mean, the IMF team had already been into Ghana, they've gone back, and it wasn't just the Ghana finance minister that went to Washington. I mean, you are aware that major countries sent their foreign finance ministers to go into Washington to have a meeting with the IMF. And I'm very certain that by the time we are done with those conversations and the finance minister together with the team comes back into Ghana, we would hear some very positive responses as it relates to these things.
So he doesn't look good. His response is even short. This is the shortest response. 2 minutes. Very Boachi Dankwa-ish.
Because you see, the most difficult job to do in this country today is to make this government look good. Is to try to communicate your way out of the mess that they have put us in. So I clearly, have sympathies for my brother here. It's not an easy task at all. Look, the situation is dire. The economy has been run aground. And there is simply no, hope in sight. This whole IMF discussion, the information we are picking up is that, it doesn't look good. In fact, all the data that they hid under the table, and we went to great length. We went at great length trying to expose, are all now being accepted and put, on the books. Like the banking sector that they all did. I mean, it is so clear now that they have no clue, they have no solution. And yesterday in the evening, a businessman called me, and he was quite worried about where this country was headed. And that is the frustration of many, many businessmen today. People who try to, create jobs and keep the economy, running, cannot simply get their way clear as to where things are headed. And I feel very sorry that this government wasted the goodwill that they inherited. I don't think that any government in the history of the Fourth Republic have ever had the kind of goodwill that they came into office with. I mean, they themselves brag about how they won the 2016 election with over 1 million votes. I mean, the goodwill was immense goodwill. And it wasn't just the fact that, people supported them, but they also got better. They inherited better. I mean, this was a time that, you had ESLA now coming in, giving them so much. You had more oil wells being discovered to give them so much more. You had the sinking fund, you had the Exim fund, you had the infrastructure fund all set up for them. I mean, and they just went into town to party and to throw money around and to invest in wasteful things. You recall the debate over how much was going into infrastructure, capital expenditure, for a very long time. Consistently, the minority raised concern about the dwindling investments in capex, as far as capex was concerned. And no country has ever developed investing in just social welfare programs.
Well, the government can defend itself that free SHS,
you cannot, free SHS alone cannot sustain your economy. And that is why the thinking at the time was not to do a reckless free SHS, but to do one that is progressive, one that embraces all the challenges of implementing a free educational policy, and one that progressively addresses the challenges without compromising your economy. That is sensible, but that they rejected and convinced the people of Ghana that their alternative was going to ensure that all the problems we see today with SHS, the implementation of free SHS, would be no more. They said so, that they will implement it without the crisis we see today, where children are poorly fed, where schools, have to now depend on contributions of parents, even though it is not sanctioned, to keep the schools running. They said they will implement the free SHS without all these problems, where children will not be made to run shift, where they will not be packed in rooms. They said they will run the free SHS without all these problems. They again said that the running of their free SHS was not going to affect our economy. And then when they talk about, international forces, they make me think of a child who perhaps around COVID wrote, WASI, and failed. Even though so many children passed. Then he goes to his parents and he tells his parents that, look, but Mom, you understand, say COVID was there, so that's why I failed. Forgetting that thousands of children passed, even though there was COVID. I mean, you remember there was. Those children had A's. So their response to the economy using external forces can be likened to the child who failed around that time, going to the parents to tell the parents that, oh, you should understand why I failed. I mean, it wasn't my fault. Despite the fact that thousands passed, I failed because of COVID. Because you have countries that are doing much, much better than you, even though they also experience COVID. You have countries that are doing much, much better than you, even though Ukraine is closer to them than it is to you. Your currency, for God's sake, is the West in the world. The West in the world. That should tell you that other currencies are doing much, much better than you. Even though those currencies also operate in the same international market. And you are not ashamed to still refer to international forces as reason why you are last. When your colleagues are first, second, third.
Beneath us, we have Zimbabwe, the Cuban peso, Sri Lankan rupee, the Venezuelan bolivar.
In fact, the Bloomberg publication says that
Sierra
we
Leone.
are the Sri Lankan rupee is last but one, and we are last.
Yeah.
So it's not beneath us. In fact, it's above us. But above us, you have Zimbabwe, you have the Sri Lankan rupees above us. We are last. That's what it says.
Yeah.
And so it is.
So we're talking the charts.
It is so disheartening.
Of the West performance.
Very, very shameful chart indeed to top.
What should be the line of communication from government, especially within this period when businesses are experiencing a slump?
Let's go, or we should just refer the lecture that Dr. Baumia delivered in 2014.
14? Which one? The Central University one?
Yes. Saving the Cedi, or what was it called? The title of the lecture. Yeah. It was on the Cedi. Let's refer the notes to them.
You are saying the answers are all there?
The answers are all there. In fact, the first thing he said was that the government must show humility and accept that we are in crisis and communicate in a way that they can get the support of the people of Ghana to take certain strong decisions. I'm not quoting, but that's
you also said
what he said.
When the fundamentals of the economy are weak.
Yeah.
Yes,
that the exchange rate was exposed. But we are talking about the way forward, and I'm giving you one of the recommendations of Dr. Baumia then was that the government must show humility. The economy was not this dire. The Cedi was not trading at 12 to $1. In fact, it was below 4 to $1. 4 Cedi to $1. I'm sure a lot of people will want that level of incompetence back, where they can get their dollar for less than 4 cedis.
How can you get your dollar for less than 4 cedis?
Because it was
after all these years of development.
Why? What
so
else? Why?
It appears as though the world must be static.
Are you saying
the world must be static? The world must not progress and develop.
So all the campaign promise. I mean, I saw one of the placards recently that you were going to stabilize the Cedi and make it stronger. Was a lie. You are deceiving the people.
Oh, you mean the picture circulated when the president went to Kumasi? That was 2 days ago.
Yeah. You said that. You were going to stabilize it and make it stronger. Now you are telling us after all this while. You see the arrogance after all this while. Why are you expecting us to still keep the Cedi at 4 cedis?
That is not what I said.
I mean, see the body language
that
after all this long time. Yet you told us.
That is not what I said.
You told us that you will make the Cedi stable and strong.
What did you do?
Now today he says after all this while, why are you telling us that we should?
What did you
I mean, please.
let me borrow a minute of you.
It is insulting.
Let me borrow a minute of you.
Yes. When you say that
Just a minute.
When you say that the Cedi was at 4 Cedi to the dollar, okay, and then you look at the years and the development, it appears as though the world must be static.
Why?
Now, from the time when the Cedi was 4 Ghana cedis till now, there's been a lot of
What's the rate of
development.
what was the percentage quantum of depreciation?
No,
200%.
No, it cannot be 200%.
It's about 200%.
It's an excess.
In fact, it's in excess of 200% because at the time it was less than 4 cedis, remember?
But you see, at the time when it was less
And
than
you are
4
talking about 12 cedis today.
which year was that?
2014.
2016.
2014.
Yes.
15, 16.
Okay, how many years ago is that?
It was.
That's almost 8 years
It was
ago.
in 2014.
In January 2017, it was 4.2.
So that's
I'm
almost.
saying that in January 2017,
Yeah.
when the president took over, it was 4.2.
4.2.
So that's about.
So at the
6
time
years
the lecture was going on was 3.
It was less than
3 point something
So
because
that's
it was
about
2.
8
then-
years. 8 years ago. Okay. You appreciate the growth of the global economy. from that time.
And the growth automatically means that your cedi should get weaker and weaker.
No, not at all. Not
I mean,
at all.
what
Not
level
at all.
of
the cedi?
But we're not told that. That's the point.
Yes.
Yes,
Dr.
no,
Baumia said that should not happen.
it shouldn't
I
happen.
understand what he's
I
saying.
mean, it is not. Don't
Sorry, I
justify.
but we-
yes,
sorry.
please,
That's okay.
please.
Sorry, I borrowed your
Okay.
time.
Don't justify your inability to stabilize the cedi and make it strong with time. Time has nothing to do with your incompetence. A competent manager would have taken that time and perhaps made the cedi better than it is today. Because the world market is there for every country to trade in.
Right.
And so if you invested in productive ventures, for example, the Commander Sugar Factory, remember how it was started. The president, in a State of Nation address, talked about the imports that affected the cedi. Talked about sugar, tomato, and I think flour. I don't remember. There were 3 commodities he mentioned. No,
The
frozen
rice.
foods, I think. Rice, and frozen foods. There were 4. Sugar, tomato, frozen foods, and rice.
That's President John Mahama.
President John Mahama, and said there was a need for us to target these sectors and invest in those sectors so that we will
these-
have competitive advantage,
And they'll serve as substitutes.
and they will serve as substitutes. And that's how the Commander Sugar Factory came about. Now, if it had been followed, if it was allowed to function and followed with an investment in a tomato production factory, then the policy of forcing poultry farmers, poultry importers, to source their poultry locally. Remember, if it was followed through, all poultry importers were now required to source about 40% or 60% of their poultry locally before they were allowed to bring in, frozen foods, chicken. If we had invested more there, built the capacity of the local poultry, producers, would have been strengthening our city by such interventions. If we had also invested in the rice as it was determined to be one of the, imports that took a lot of, foreign exchange out of this country, we would have been making our city stronger. But if you came,
Please wrap up.
if you came and you engage in deals such as corrupt deals such as the PDS deals, where cutting shares for each other resulted in the country losing money, the Millennium Challenge money, $3 that was available, why wouldn't your city suffer? So do not excuse your incompetence with time.
Mr. Badabro, I have information that Guta, for example, they want to declare some sort of sit-down action tomorrow. They want to not only follow up what their counterpart in Kumasi did, but this time it's just direct relation to how poorly the cedi has performed against, especially the US dollar. That will put many consumers in dire straits.
This is coming at a very difficult time for majority of Ghanaian contractors. And many Ghanaian contractors are falling sick. That is those who are or may even be lucky. Majority of them have died of shock because the government owes them so much, in excess of 10 billion, that the government has not paid. This is coming at a time when even Ghanaian peacekeepers to Mali have not been paid 6 months of what they are due. This is coming at a time when prison officers have not been paid several months of their clothing and other allowances. So in effect, the government owes a whole lot. And you can appreciate that when even these are released, it has its own ramifications. And so Ghanaian contractors are dying because, look, banks are attaching court orders on their properties that they used as collateral to be able to obtain loans, and selling of people's properties, including their houses. Because you wake up in the morning and your children are about going to school, and they rush back to your room and say, Daddy, we have seen that this property that we are living in is being sold. When the daddy is not even out of bed, you know the shock. the shock of the fact that the children have even gotten to know that daddy owes so much that property, the house in which they live, will be sold, send most of them to their graves. Government is not being held responsible for the murder of these people. Contractors are simply collapsing, they are losing their lives because of the recklessness of of President Akufo-Addo. Now, when we are talking about the Cedi, and you are talking about 12.2, don't think that the rest of the world has forgotten that. You calibrated your Cedi by cutting off 4 zeros. So when you want to know the actual Cedi you are talking about, 12.2, it is 122,000. We are talking about 122,000 Cedis.
You've taken us back to 2007.
That is what we have. 122,000 to $1.
But we've redenominated. I mean, we have to be ready.
You see?
You're saying that we have to come to terms with the local people.
I just see that you're excited, tickling yourself and laughing, saying that you are excited. You are not excited. Reality is that we are paying 122,000 Cedis to $1. And anyone is excited about this situation. And here we are being schooled or mis-schooled by Palgrave that 8 years down the line, it is expected. I thought that when the economy is booming, economy is growing, things should rather become better. But when you claim that the economy is growing and things are getting better, our situation is worse. That is where we find ourselves. You see, let me use the Suhini example, and you can take a pen. Palgrave, you can take a pen.
Okay, I've taken a pen.
In January 2022, the dollar was about 5.2 cedis to the dollar.
Yeah, that's right. It was in the
5.2 to the dollar.
5.52.
7 in the analysis I gave.
So just multiply, assuming, taking the Suhini example, that you had 100,000 Ghana cedis. How many dollars were you going to obtain?
We're going to get approximately
52,000.
Yeah,
That is in January.
Yeah.
Today, how much is the dollar?
12.1,
12.2.
12.2.
So if you have,
Depends on where you're buying it from.
if you have,
And availability.
if you have
And at the time you need
$100,000, 100,000 Ghana cedis, how much dollar are you going to obtain?
Oh, currently you're going to get in the region of some 8,000.
8,000. You think that this is 100% depreciation? You think it's 200?
You're actually going to get 7,800.
You think that this is 200%, 300% depreciation of the currency? So somebody who kept his money intending to do business,
You keep it in the bank. That's how much you have lost.
intending to just do business or to even go and do a property, all of a sudden, from $52,000, you have less than $8,000. And I say this all the time. I was involved in a terrible accident. We survived, but our vehicle was in a mess. In trying to fix the vehicle, we went and then they gave us the spare parts on credit. This was around February. In fixing the vehicle, everything cost about 20,000. That spare parts person, when we are going to pay 20,000, will not be able to buy a single component of that spare parts because he's going to buy in dollars. We have finished the person's business just by owing for a period. The person's business has been finished even when you come to pay. And so when the people in the market are complaining, it is because, look, you go and buy your wares from outside. You come.
They're facing real issues.
Yeah, you sell on credit.
And that's the dilemma of goods.
You sell on credit. By the time the people come to pay you in the cedis, you cannot go and buy a quarter of what you have sold. You sit here and you don't appreciate that. And President Akufo-Addo is telling us that he has no reason to sack his so-called competent people. So that's why I said that the president has no standards. And when you are standardless, you make the kind of pronouncement that the president will make.
Well, we have to end the conversation this morning. Let me just give the last word to Mr. Boachidangwa, please.
He doesn't need it.
But he started it.
Trust me, he doesn't.
So once he started it,
just
it means I
a
will
minute.
end for him.
The focus now is to make sure we have some good deal with the IMF, and then we move forward, right?
Yes.
And how are we progressing with that?
The IMF that they
it's been
resented
going
and told
very,
us that we are a
very
proud people, we
That was
are
a-
a proud
that was
nation.
during the period of stakeholder engagement.
We are very certain that
After launching 11.
we
It's
are very
disgusting.
certain that after this Q4, when we enter into Q1 2023, we should
Q1, eh?
Yes, first quarter of 2023, we should see that the IMF has issued a
Are they,
first
are,
part
are they
of
so
their
far
money.
warming up to...
Very much, very much. They are very
Kisa, so
confident.
what says it's not true.
It's very true. I mean, we live in this country. I mean, you would see that the
And they are in
IMF is
Washington.
going to- yes. is Ato Forson in Washington?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Yes. Well,
It's
but
part
then,
of the parliamentary finance.
good.
You know, they are part of the
absolutely,
governance structure.
Absolutely, but it's going very well, and we are very certain that by
So he's a naysayer.
I didn't say that. It's going very well. We are very certain that by Q1 2023, the IMF would issue a first part of the 3 billion.
How much do you think they'll give us? So
I'm
far,
not too sure.
since you work with the Ministry of Finance.
Well, I'm not too sure. I don't want to preempt.
They will not give us anything.
You don't have a deal. You're already thinking of.
They will not give us
It's going
anything.
to
The president's budget will
also
be presented in November.
to debunk very strongly that the president has a lot of standards. I mean, if
He has zero standards.
You know, you
Mr.
call Mahama
Says
incompetent,
that,
and we all follow through as media. So
he
that's how
has-
come I allowed
he has- he has
allowed
zero
the standard
standards.
the president has a lot of standards.
I said
yes,
zero
I mean, from
standards.
all
Because he's
of-
an astute
all-
lawyer.
all of
Because
his
zero standard
career,
is still a standard. So he has zero
he has a lot
standards.
of standards, and it's important that we put that
All
on
right.
record.
Is it Roland?
Has zero
I
standards.
think that maybe this doesn't come home any better than just looking at the example of having 1 billion
You're
at the
saying
beginning of
this
this
is
year.
the real issue.
Yes, that's the real
100,000.
problem. 100,000, 1 billion at the
Sitting
beginning
in-
of this year,
sitting
in
in
a
January.
bank. You had
In
19,000,
January.
almost $20,000. That's what you had. If you left that 100,000 in the bank untouched, today you just have $8,000.
Less than 8,000.
Yeah, let's say about
You
that.
are praising this.
It's not easy.
Do you understand? Roland, yet national service personnel have been on 559 Ghana cedis since 2016. Since 2016. 559
Including the fact that
Ghana
they are not
cedis.
paid regularly.
Well, that even makes it worse. What kind of... And yet, Nana Akufo-Addo says that even if for the aesthetics, another president would have fired the finance minister by now. That is what Britain has done.
No, you see,
It is not as if Cotton, it's not as if Cotton was wrong.
Which is different. The man did not go to borrow
The
money.
market will
The
always
man's
respond.
business
He
is
said the British situation.
But the
man's
president,
business
but the
is
president,
different.
for him,
The member of parliament,
How
and then also Benakuna is a former chair for the PNC.
You know,
you have
And Palgraves Boachidangwa is government spokesperson on governance and security. The Cedi has slumped. Bloomberg has not only published this, the Bretton Woods institutions are engaging with us, the IMF specifically, and the rating agencies are not rating Ghana very well. Well, it's why we have to go for a break right here on TV3 New Day.
Just